Hi friends, host Eric here, talking with famous people, and this video is called Are Taylor and Kim Pulling a Cory and Candice? And the reason I'm making this video is because I got in a bit of a argument last night with Taylor and Kim about, well, it's a repeat. It's a repeat of what happened when I got fired from my job and started autonomy debate, when I refused to be subjugated by my boss, by her shadiness. I refused to accept her $5,000 check because it came with a conditional silence agreement. And I insisted I would be able to start my autonomy business and be as successful at that in terms of bringing in money as I was at having a job, bringing that much at least. So that was my basic message. Cory and Candice disagreed with me. They said, no, you won't be able to do this, Eric. You won't succeed at doing this. Or if you are going to succeed at doing this, you need to do it this way or that way. Eric, we're just concerned about you. We're looking out for you. You're being really kind of too much, too crazy, and you're so intense about this, and you're not always right, Eric. You're well, that's stupid fucking garbage. Of course, I was right. I'm not always right. When I'm all in, though, I am always right. So the reason I'm all in anything is it's a no-lose situation. This is a no-lose situation. I'm all in on this because of reasons I can't fully explain. And that's why I get this, what you might call the Cory Candice phenomenon. No matter how well, I guess if I fully explained it, Taylor would understand what I'm doing. Part of the thing is, one of the things that people don't get is that I'm not nearly as entirely open as I appear to be. One of Taylor's key advocacies here regarding this is play your cards close to your vest. Because what I'm doing is I've got 10 cards, or 20 cards, or 50 cards. And the kind of cards that people would normally think might be more important to play close to your vest, I'm laying them all out there for everyone to see. Eric, you can't say you weren't physically harmed by him because then you have no case to send him, all that kind of stuff. Oh my God, Eric, you gave away that? It doesn't matter. I gave it away on purpose. There are reasons to my behavior here. In this context especially, Cory and Candice had a little more cause for concern. Did not claim, at no point was I claiming to them that I would be a good businessman, that I know what I'm doing in terms of business. But what I was claiming is that I'd get plenty of action. And I did right away. It's like I just could go to any place and they'd be like, yes, we will give you all of our kids and hire you right now. Be partners with you. And so everything else didn't matter, right? It didn't matter if they were right about me being a bad businessman. As long as I got plenty of clients, it really doesn't matter. Now, over time, after Cory and Candice were long gone, that ended up fizzling because I'm not a very good businessman. But they were wrong still. Exactly what I said would happen happened. After they left, shifted gears or shifted activities or whatever. But they were completely wrong. And I couldn't explain to them adequately why they were wrong without talking about how good I was as a debate coach. The reason, I agree that would normally never succeed for anybody, but I'm really that good and that well respected in the field. And then I got accused of being arrogant. Except that's the actual reason why I was right. So, what do you do with something like that? It's like these people obviously don't care about me, Candice and Cory, because the fact that I was going to succeed because of qualities implicit to me, either built up by experience or inherent to my nature or whatever, it was intolerable to them that I be special in some regard. Now, I'm having a very similar conflict with Taylor and Kim, except Taylor and Kim have actually less ground to stand on. It's like, the thing I'm doing right now is so perfectly aligned with my skill sets and so not involving things I don't know how to do that there should be a certain amount of default understanding that I know what I'm doing. Let me clarify a little bit about holding the cards close to the vest thing. So some of the cards that I've been very open about are the fact that I'm not looking to nail this guy to the wall, that I didn't get physically harmed, that I'm not a victim or haven't been victimized in any conventional sense, although I'm technically the victim of a crime. I don't feel like a victim. I don't feel like I've endured a lot of suffering or anything. And
yeah, dude, that's insane. I saw that, man. That is insane. I would be so pissed. I'm surprised you kept your cool from that, man. I would be so pissed.
Well, I'm very pleased with my behavior that whole night. And this is why what I'm talking about right now is not about that so much as it is about this fight I'm having with Taylor and Kim.
Oh.
So, but it all links in. Like, the fight with Kim boils down to stuff like she found my behavior that night somehow embarrassing. And that makes me angry.
Like, embarrassing that was on the video or after the video?
No, not that it was on the video, but during that whole period of time, she said you can hear part of it in the video when I'm saying stop because they're shooting with the beanbag gun before I start actually yelling at them, but I'm just feeling uncomfortable. I'm not actually at that point yet accusing them of any sort of real wrongdoing or thinking that they're engaged in something that's abjectly wicked. I just think they're choosing the hard way to do this, but they're within reasonable levels still. So I'm saying stop! Don't shoot him again with a beanbag gun. And Kim's like, shh, stop, Eric! Don't! You're embarrassing me. So it's like there's nothing I did. The thing that makes me so angry about this is I actually executed that night perfectly. Like, I never yelled a goddamn thing until the guy's anguished wails compelled me to. And
yeah, I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah,
so messed up.
It is, and that she could possibly walk away from that night feeling anything but proud of me is infuriating, frankly. But
yeah, I get that too. It seems like, I don't know if it's an ISFJ thing, but there's been moments where she's prioritized embarrassment or not wanting to be embarrassed and her own feelings about things versus something that's actually needed to be said or good. It's well, there's bigger things to be looking at right now rather than just how you feel about stuff.
Right. So, but the other aspect of this is Taylor is quite certain that I'm approaching this wrong. He's not opposing the idea of approaching it like Kim sort of is, she definitely is, but he's opposing the idea of approaching it wrong. Now, Kim's legitimacy for thinking she doesn't want me to follow up on this whole thing is fear, and that's legitimate. It's like I don't think the fear is warranted, but I think that's a legitimate reason to not want me to follow up on it. She's not saying,
"Oh, no, that's legitimate." Yeah.
She's not saying I'm in the wrong. She's not saying that justice isn't siding with me. She's just saying that she's afraid the cops are going to criminally
kill you.
I don't think she's necessarily afraid they're going to kill me. I think it.
They could. They could put a hit on you, man. Like they could just take you out.
They could. That's true. The reason I don't think they will is multiple. One, I don't think the majority of police officers are evil sociopaths. I just think that they're swaddled in a community that's reinforcing the wrong things. But number two, this is awfully public already. You know, I'm making videos, leaving messages to the city attorney. I'm going to call internal affairs at some point today because I finally got my phone working again. And I'm going to leave a message for them. I'm sure they don't work on the weekends. And I'm going to put those videos up there. All those phone calls, I'm going to make a video and put that up there as well. So, you know, your concern about them putting a hit on me is here in this video, and this video is going up too. So it becomes more difficult to put a hit on somebody when they're talking about the possibility of you putting a hit on them publicly. It becomes a little more risky, you know? And you can imagine that the one way that we could guarantee that talking with famous people will blow the fuck up is if they killed me. I think it wouldn't do me any good at that point, but if in fact YouTube creators killed by the police for trying to be a patriot, which is all I'm doing. I'm not trying to railroad them. I'm not trying to accomplish an unjust outcome here. I'm not saying I want $1 million from this cop. I'm saying I'm planning on suing him for $1,000. And I want to make sure that the one issue that happens here, the one thing I actually care about, is I want a ruling in my favor saying, yes, that action by that cop in that context, in those situations with these specifics, does in fact invalidate his qualified immunity. If I can accomplish that, the game's over, really. I would still need the $1,000 for a sense of having established genuine disincentive.
He has to write his name. Well, he'll have to write his name. Like, he'll have to put his name down. Like, here is a check to Eric Strauss for $1,000.
Right, but the main reason I have to get that $1,000, yes, there's a certain amount of competitiveness. Like, I want to win, I want him to lose, or something like that. But the main reason I want that $1,000 is because this case needs to establish an actual disincentive to police for behaving like that. They need to be disincentivized. And if they know they can and will lose their qualified immunity and be sued if they illegally and unethically silence political speech in order to enable their ongoing malfeasance, then it will cost them out of their pocketbook. Then that's a meaningful way to affect change.
Well, I mean, 1,000, that's not that much. Like, I'm sure, like...
It's not the amount. It's not the amount that matters. That's a meaningful...
It needs to be a disincentive. If it's $5, they would just keep doing it. Right?
Okay, but listen, I'm not saying I'm trying to disincentivize this cop from doing it again. If I were trying to do that, you're right. More money would be more of a disincentive. I'm trying to send the message to cops everywhere that most people aren't cool like me. They're not going to sue for what they think is just. That's what I'm suing for. I think is what I think it's just. And the reason I picked $1,000 is because if in that moment we could have stopped time and the cop said, okay, you've got a choice. Either I'm going to silence you or I'm going to give you this megaphone, but you have to pay me $1,000 for it. And then you can stand here and regardless, when this deal time is over, we're going to resume. Time's going to start up again. We're going to continue to be abusing and torturing this guy. And it'll persist for an indefinite period of time. We don't know how long. But it'll either persist that long with you standing there in silence or with you able to shout at us and tell us to stop. I would have paid the $1,000 for the megaphone. So It was worth $1,000 to me. So I want $1,000. He stole $1,000 worth of value from me.
Okay, fair enough.
So, and the thing is, that's called justice. It's like, I am not out to get them. I'm out to attain justice. If something were to break unfairly in my favor, I wouldn't tolerate it. If somehow there was some weird loophole-y thing that now I'm able to force that cop to give me $50,000, I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be right. Because the right thing to do is both a combination of negative rights and positive rights here. It's like, positive moral duties. I have a positive moral duty to set an example of how all of these things should be dealt with, which means transparently, openly, fairly, justly, and in defense of rights. So,
well, if you do this correctly, like that's a good presidential platform right there. Like that would boost you up so high if you actually did what you want to do. You could be in a good position for that too.
As long as, if I succeeded, it would obviously be much better, right? But as long as I do what I'm supposed to do and do it right the whole way through, I'm certain that it's going to be a win for me no matter what, because it's going to involve me talking to people who need to hear this message. And they're going to not be able to avoid hearing it because of the leverage the situation gives me in terms of giving me a voice. Again, if you want to talk about how much my speech is worth to me, well, it's obviously worth more than a big settlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here I am speaking about it and cutting off my avenues in advance to larger settlements. Taylor thinks that's crazy, and I'm doing things entirely wrong. When I try to explain to him exactly why I'm doing it this way, it's kind of hard to explain how this benefits me strategically. But part of the reason it's hard to explain is that I'm picking the cards I display and those I hold close to my vest very carefully. And the thing is, it seemed as though, until this video, that I was just displaying everything. But let me mention some things the sort of things you never hear from me when I'm talking about this. You never hear something like this. Well, if the cop says blah, then I'll say blah. I don't want anyone to know that I'm prepared for every contingency. I don't want them to avoid saying certain things because they know I'm prepared for it.
Well, you know what my argument would be? My argument would be that you were, like, it seemed like you were in the median of the street and you were in the middle of the road. And so that would be my contention, be like, well, this guy.
Okay, I don't want to go over all that stuff. See, that's the stuff I don't want to. Those are the cards I don't want to lay out on the table. I'll talk to you about it in private. I'll talk to you about it in private.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not showing all my cards. Am I prepped for those things? Absolutely. The key thing here to remember also is I am an intuitive, which means, and I am a ENTP, which means when I am most ready to go to war, I am prepped, not planned. Prepped, not planned. It's critical to understand the difference. The reason I'm going to win is because I'm prepped. I'm positioned properly. So all my ducks are in a row as they need to be. And I've got all of the arguments split into groups of arguments. They're this kind, right? And there's no argument that can possibly be made that doesn't fit into one of those kind of groups. I know what I do with things in this group if they coordinate with things of this group or whatever, and how it works against them. How every possible move they have works against them if they try to pull it. Now, the best move they have, and the one they should do, is to work with me. I mean, obviously not the individual cop's not going to want to work with me, but the city and the internal affairs and stuff like that. If they do that, it serves everyone's interest, serves the nation's interest, even serves that individual cop's interest because he needs this lesson. But if they choose to try to work against me, then they'll discover just how prepped I am, because everything they do to work against me, I know what to do with. And it doesn't help them at all. Believe me. While I have, in the current moment, apparently cut off my avenue to a larger settlement, what if they work against me? If they choose to position themselves as though they were defendants, as though they were the respondents in a civil case. Because remember, the city's not a respondent in the civil case. It's the individual cop. So the city should want that severance. They should say, oh, yeah, we agree with you. He doesn't have any qualified immunity. Why should they want that? Well, because to argue the opposite of that is to try to incur liability upon the city.
Uh-huh.
So let him do that. If he wants to do that, if Alvarez, for example, says, no, we're going to defend his qualified immunity.
Alvarez is the
city attorney.
City attorney.
I mean, first of all, it's an optical nightmare. Do the citizens of Pomona know this? That you're choosing to make them liable for that dude's actions? So, I mean, he's got an optical problem right away. But beyond that, there's lots of... I don't want to... Those are things I don't want to go into. What you haven't heard me talk about, and what you're not going to hear me talk about, is what if they do this? Well, then I'm going to do this. Except in the most broad terms, right? Because that's the sort of card that I can't play. I can't show ahead of time because it undermines my ability to play it in the game. These kind of cards, the frames, I want it framed like this for multiple reasons. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, what this is, my approach here and the way that I'm being so open and transparent about it is an indisputable display of good faith. I'm actually dealing with them in real good faith. So their bad faith, should they choose to respond with it, is ever starker in comparison. They're going to have to carry around with them the weight of their choices, as will I, right? So I'm making my choices very carefully. The reason I will succeed is because my path is entirely righteous. I'm correct, and I'm doing good work. I'm a patriot.
Yeah, you're doing very good. Yeah, being very Christ-like.
So that's why it will succeed.
Yeah.
Because look, if you're up against somebody who's an absolutely malevolent, sociopathic evildoer, well, then you're in a superhero movie or something. We don't come across those very often. I rarely get into arguments with Kim Jong-un. You know?
Mm.
The police department is made up of citizens like me, at least some of whom must have some sense of patriotic duty and some sense of right and wrong and some sense of, like, I know cops are often awful to some people or whatever, but the reason they're able to do that and live with themselves is because they've got this narrative of good guys, bad guys. And if you're a criminal, then you don't get to be treated like a human. But if you're a good guy, then we're on your side and we're protecting you and we're the heroes because we protected you good guys against those criminals. I'm obviously a good guy. I'm not a criminal. And my point is, I'm not opposing the police. I'm not opposing policing things. I'm not disputing the fact that the police were appropriately called to deal with this guy. You know? It's
not
like,
that many.
Huh?
It was ridiculous. There were like 12 of them or something.
Well,
I don't even know how many.
Oh, I agree. If we were to glean information from the way they dealt with that, we would have to conclude that the police are abject cowards of the worst nature. Because why do they need a huge gang of armed men, a helicopter, a fire truck, and how many rounds of beanbags and how many voltage of tasers to subdue one skinny, mentally ill homeless guy? It's ridiculous.
Right.
And apparently one of the cops was afraid for his life because a chihuahua was near him.
Yeah.
Did you fear for your life, officer? Did you think the chihuahua was going to get you? Now, see, whoever killed that dog, that guy's a sociopath. Whichever cop.
Yeah.
But remember, it was a cop who killed that dog. It was not the cops who killed that dog. And that's my message here. It's one of my key messages. I'm not going to do what I rail against people doing all the time, which is reduce an individual to a member of his group. I'm not going to assume that the cop who assaulted me is a bad person because he's a police officer. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume he's a good person and is somebody who hopefully is feeling some regret and remorse about this. He might not be, but if he's not, it's only because he's not framing it in terms of being a patriot and understanding that this country was founded on the principle that I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. It's what it means to be American.
Yeah. Yeah, that lady that yelled at you too at the end, she was annoying. What an idiot. What an idiot.
She didn't answer my question.
No, because she's stupid. And then the guy calmed her down. Did you see that? He's like,
that's her man.
Stop talking.
Yeah, right. And that was the guy who was standing next to me yelling at the cops.
Yeah, I heard some guy that was yelling with you.
Shortly after I started, he joined right in. That was that guy. He was on my team, and I talked to him later a little bit more too. He was, like, he had a certain urban vibe to him. Like he wasn't educated, I guess, or you say, or whatever. Which just goes to show you, it doesn't take a college degree to know what's right and wrong.
Right.
So anyway,
what's cool that he joined in with you. That you
what's that?
Started that too. Like you gave him confidence to do that with you. So that's good.
Yeah, I do feel proud of that. And but the other thing is, what that affords me is clear, immediate evidence of the chilling effect. Because as soon as a cop assaulted me, he stopped yelling too.
Yeah.
So the point is, though, this video is not really about all of that. It's about my fight with Taylor and Kim. And my message is this. If I could explain to you exactly how it was and why it was I was going to win in full detail, then I wouldn't be able to win. Because I wouldn't be an ENTP and I wouldn't be improvisationally advantaged in the way that I am. I don't know exactly what they're going to do or say, obviously. What I do know is that what they're going to do or say is going to fall into category X, Y, Z, A, B, or C. And I know what to do with things that fall into each of those categories. Oh, if they play a D, then that opens up set G for me. If they play a C, that opens up set H for me. If they play a C and a B, then they're really fucked because those can't play together. It's like I can't explain all of that to anybody, so I don't blame them. Anyone who's not this improvisationally natured, I don't blame you for not believing or having faith in that because you have no experience with it. However, I'm right. I know what I'm doing, and I'm all in on this. So don't give me pushback. It won't do you any good. You're wrong. I don't know what else to say about it. With Cory and Candice, the key difference between Cory and what Candice and Cory did and what Taylor and Kim are doing is Candice and Cory had a genuine desire to keep me down.
Who's Cory?
Cory's my ex-best friend.
Okay.
They genuinely wanted to see me stay down. Like, they didn't like the fact that once I quit drinking, I started to fill in my potential a bit, you know? I started to be who I am a bit and not be scared all the time and not be ashamed all the time. And so that they call that arrogance, I guess. But really what they were doing is they were needing the comfort of my failure to fulfill my potential so they could feel okay with their own failures to fulfill their potentials. Particularly Cory. Candice it was a different matter. The Candice thing, she's an ESFJ. She doesn't know shit. I mean, it's like she has no NI. So the problem with Candice was she was just continually baffled by the notion that something might be true, and that means something. You know. So Candice was less of a wrongdoer. She was just inadequate to the occasion. Cory, though, wanted to keep me down. The difference, though, Kim and Taylor, they're not trying to keep me down. Taylor thinks I'm making poor strategic decisions. And I try to tell him he's wrong because he's not understanding how the levels interact. It's like there's a metaframe, there's a frame, there's sort of like a subframe, and then there's a contention level. I haven't talked anything at all about the contention level. That's stuff like Mark brought up. He's stuck in frame and subframe and contention and doesn't understand the way the metaframe links back in and how it invalidates his concerns because of, for one thing, it links but back down to framework as a criterion for success. Like, what is my criterion for success here? It's not to maintain the most. I'm not trying to control their perceptions. You see, that's the thing. I'm not saying that I'm going to take advantage of them not knowing what I'm going to do. And so that would seem to be poor strategy to an ESTP for sure. Why not? Why give them information you don't need to give them? Because I'm picking the specific pieces of information that I'm giving them. And I know what they can do with them. They can do multiple things with them. But the fact that I know what they can do with them means, obviously, I know what I will do if they do that. And I probably know what they will do and what I will do after that. So that's why I'm making the right decision across the board here. And I will be incredibly disappointed and surprised if, in fact, I endure harassment from the police in response to this. Because I'm not behaving like a bad guy at all. I'm doing what is just and right and true and good for the country. And there has to be enough people on that police force who themselves have patriotic sentiments that I'm not going to be suffering illegal and undue harassment from anybody. I expect to have everyone's full cooperation in this. Now, if I don't get it, well, if people want to demonstrate that they're dealing with me in bad faith, then there are natural consequences to that.
What did you say about what I brought up?
What did I say about the median thing?
Yeah, I thought you just...
I said that's not something I want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the things I am keeping close to my vest, is what I'm going to say when they say blah. I'm not talking about any of those things because that would actually disadvantage me.
Right.
So, and that's the thing. It's like, until now, I haven't really talked about that level of prep, because I thought, well, there's no reason to make them aware that I'm more aware than they think I am. But I'm not. But again, going back to the metaframe, I look at this situation, I go, no, this is fine to do this. It's important to do this because I want them to know that I will be honest and forthright throughout the whole thing, transparent and real about everything. Not adversarial, but justice seeking. So it is not ideal, perhaps tactically or strategically. They are aware now that I'm more aware of the cards and vest element than perhaps they would otherwise have thought I was. But that's okay. They're still not aware at all of what I'm going to do with meow. So, I'm not going to tell them that because they don't need to know that. I'm not yet convinced they're working with me. Once I'm convinced everybody's working together, then we shouldn't even have to go to court, frankly. I want to get that qualified immunity quashed. We will have to do that because he's not going to pay me just on the assumption that his qualified immunity is going to be quashed. It's too robust. It's like almost always it gets upheld by the court, the qualified immunity. So he is going to push it that far, no doubt. And he should push it that far. I want him to push it that far because that's exactly what I want to accomplish here. I want to set that precedent. So,
Yes.
But once his qualified immunity is gone, I would expect us to not have to go to court. He'd probably just write me a check for $1,000 at that point. It's not worth it to him to go to court. It's only $1,000, and he's probably pretty rich. Cops make shit tons of money. One of the funny things I got to do is go through the Pomona City employees' salary thing. They have all their salaries listed up there. You know, it's crazy how much people make. Like city manager makes like $200,000 a year or something.
Well, I mean, and then plus all the cocaine stashes they find and then sell, and all the money they take from people.
Well, there's all the money they take from people. I'm not convinced that the average police department is that corrupt. At least around Los Angeles. I think small town police departments tend to be a lot more corrupt. Because, like, I do know that there are plenty of police departments or police officers around the country who make drug busts, keep the drugs for themselves so they can sell them because they're wicked, they're immoral. They think that it doesn't matter if they're doing something totally unprincipled. But, you know, the culture of a given police department is going to have a lot to do with how it's going to play out. So, I think that in a insular community, it's easier for police departments to become sort of toxic. In Los Angeles, people are... Well, I mean, the cops are pretty good around here, really, in general. They don't... What I've noticed in Los Angeles is cops don't pull you over for bullshit, or they don't pull me over for bullshit anyway. It's like they're not interested in harassing people who aren't actually doing things wrong in general, as far as I can tell. So, I want my faith in my communities, my country, to be validated by this. I don't want to discover that, in fact, it is that corrupt, you know? And
Yeah,
I'm confident that if I approach them with honesty and openness and fairness, that they will respond accordingly.
Surprised you don't think Obama's like that bad, because he was trying to nationalize the police force.
Oh, I think he's terrible. Why
he was trying to nationalize it. He was going around, he was like sending people around to each individual town, telling those individual police departments to adopt these federal, I don't know, statutes to follow and whatnot. And he was doing that to each and every city. He was trying to nationalize the police forces and bring them all under the federal control. That would be ridiculous.
Why do you think I don't think Obama's bad?
Because you were, I don't know, you literally a video I was watching. I don't know which one it was, but you were like, Donald Trump he's more offensive than he is necessarily bad. George Bush was awful. And then you were like, Carter, awful. Reagan, I think you said it was bad.
Reagan was
and then
slightly better, and so was Clinton. Right. Clinton was better. I said Obama was terrible.
Oh, okay. I thought you said he was bad, but not awful.
No, he was terrible. Yeah, Obama was terrible. Obama was disappointing, too, because I thought at least he was going to be good on some civil liberties stuff, but he wasn't at all. I voted for him the first time, which...
I still think he's the ENFJ.
No, he's an ENTP.
I think it's one of those ENFJs that's confusing you, I heard.
I mean, but see... I don't think so. Because the thing is, if you listen to him talk, he's always like this. All of his speeches are just like this. Now, on the one hand, we can see these Americans are among the most prosperous in history. On the other hand, what are we going to do about this? Now, it's true that we should but he's just cycling through possibilities. He's an FE heavy, NE subjugated ENTP. Like he's got his NE in check, but you sort of in check. But you can see it in his speeches. He always wants to cover all the ground. He's like, and he's trying to constrain himself because, of course, if you're running for president, you can't say too much or whatever. But
well, couldn't that be FE want to cover all the ground?
Say again?
Couldn't FE want to cover all the ground so it can't be attacked by some group that may say this? FE does that. Like
Well,
FE
does it
kind of
like
looks
this,
like
though. FE goes, those people over there who don't like me, there's some wonderful things about them. You know, imagine Nick dealing with a population of people who doesn't like him. He'd walk up there to the stage and he'd say, okay, oh, you guys are gun owners in the South. What I love about you guys is I am so impressed with these skills. I am so impressed with that. And you are so, and you guys are the best. It'd be a bunch of fucking flattery. Instead, what Obama would do is go, I can understand the validity of this position, this position, this position, this position, this position, but here's some other positions, and this is why we should prioritize this one. That's way more ENTP. Because people don't want to hear that you validate the legitimacy of a given part of their position. That doesn't make them feel good. They want to hear that you legitimize them. So when I tell Kim all the time, oh, here, Kim, listen. You were right about this part of this thing. You were right when you said this. That was correct, and I was wrong. It doesn't make her feel good or feel as though she's won anything. She should feel, nor does it seem to make her feel good or relieved that she's with somebody who's so fair and reasonable. So, and this is something that causes a lot of conflict between us. It's like, Kim, this is a gift beyond measure. Almost impossible to get in the world. Somebody who is honestly fair and reasonable with you. And I need a little reciprocity here, you know? Or at least value it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I watched your ISFJ duality when you get in arguments or whatever video. I agree with what you said. I just don't know when to be exceedingly graceful or merciful versus fair. So I am fair, but then there's other times where I'm like, how merciful and graceful should I be? I don't know.
I should be mostly graceful. Kim needs mostly from me grace, not so much mercy. The thing that she needs is to have some mercy for me, because it's torture. It's really difficult to stop myself from not objecting to her painting me in a false light in some capacity. But that's what FE does, you know. It focuses on, if you're doing FE attacks, you're rendering a person's behavior into part of their nature and saying, you're like this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, I need
if you actually cared about blah, then you would blah. But I guess you don't actually care about blah. I get that. It's like, well, yeah. I don't know that.
All right, let's examine that conditional statement. So the antecedent is if you care about blah. And the consequent is then blah. So here's the problem with your argument.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Well, yeah, the thing to remember, somebody told this to me. I've heard a couple of good things in relation to Kim. Somebody once said to me, Opaloid said this, sounds like she needs a hug, when I was complaining about her. And that was a good thing to say. It was like, okay, INFJ wisdom there. The other thing is, somebody else told me, like, something along the lines of, you're hearing what she's saying, not what she's feeling. But she's feeling right now. She's not saying, you know. It was something. It wasn't that poetically phrased actually, but it conveyed that meaning. And I do need to remember that because I know it. So when I insist on interpreting her words to mean what they say rather than what they feel, I'm straw manning her.
Right.
But it's hard. It's like, can you please say words that mean things? Please.
I mean, I'll mention that to her, argue with her, and bring that up. But it's not like if she says, "Well, that's not what I meant," I just say, "Well, can you say what you meant then?" You know, I don't I don't hold that really. I mean, if she wants to switch ground or shift ground or whatever she wants to do, that's fine. I'm not as rigid about that as I am with other people.
Right. That's
as
fine
long as
too.
we have something else to stand on.
I agree with you. It's fine to shift ground and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, if what you're really saying is, I feel resentful right now because you're not spending a lot of time with me at the moment, it would be really helpful if you would say that to me. Instead of saying, I'm doing something wrong by sitting out here talking to Nanos Mark.
Right.
Don't tell me I'm doing something wrong. Tell me what you want. If I am doing something wrong, absolutely tell me what I'm doing wrong. But if you're going to tell me I'm doing something wrong that's not wrong, at that point, you're falsely accusing me of wrongdoing. And it's very difficult for me to just sort of let that slide, you know?
Well, it makes me want to blow everything up.
Right.
It makes me want to self-destruct everything. Just let's find the biggest explosive and just blow everything up then.
Right.
It's like I'll show you kind of thing. Like, you think this is bad. Well, let's see this. Boom. You know, that's how I normally deal with that.
Right. If I'm going to get your severe scolding because I forgot to say bye to Joey, then what am I going to get when I offend everybody here? When I actually do something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I totally get that. So, I mean, the thing is, I've got to... That's maybe one of the beautiful things about duality. It forces the ENTPs to live up to their potential a bit. Because we're not dealing with the type of person who's subject to our tricks. It's like, I'm not going to get anywhere cornering her, pinning her, and making her open her goddamn eyes and see the truth. I'm not going to get anywhere with that shit.
I feel like I do. It just takes a while.
Well, it depends on the approach, right? Not if you corner pin her and make her open her eyes, then she won't see a goddamn thing. But if you're... That's why it makes us fulfill our potential. Because it's like, I've got to not only want a good outcome, which is utilitarian-ish, I have to want her to enjoy the experience along the way. Honestly, right. Or else it's not going to work. Because she's as razor sharp about my intentionality as I am about her wrongness. She can read whether I'm well-intentioned or not. More than I can read myself, frankly.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching Talking with Fantasy. We got a little off topic there. Sort of, actually.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that was video.
No, it was pretty on topic. That was pretty on topic.
Gotcha.
All right. So, yeah, that's it. That's 48 good minutes. That went quick.